and welcome to the Synchronicity Show. It is your host, Kevin Wathey, and today I sit down with Susy Schieffelin, who is the founder of the Copper Vessel and the Sound Healers Academy. Susy is a Los Angeles-based sound healer, Reiki master, Kundalini yoga teacher, and inspirational speaker who has led sound baths viewed or attended by millions of people from all over the world. Susy has brought healing to employees at companies such as Google, Pandora, and Nordstrom, and has been featured in publications such as the Wall Street Journal, Vogue, and the Los Angeles Times. Susy is known for her light-filled presence, which you will definitely see in this if you're watching the video, and hear in her voice as well, but her ability to guide people towards radiant and empowered lives, characterized by self-love, serenity, abundance, and joy. Susy is the founder, as I said, of the Sound Healers Academy, an innovative crystal alchemy, sound healing, and spiritual business mentorship training. She leads a 7-week program for radical transformation called The Vessel, is a self-love advocate for brands, has created custom product lines, and offers deeply restorative crystal alchemy sound bath ceremonies and healing rituals, both in person and online. You can follow Susy on Instagram at The Copper Vessel, but there is more than one thing to talk about today. That is for sure, Susy. So welcome to the show. How are you today, and good morning?
Thank you so much, Kevin. Good morning. It's such a joy to be with you today. This is so much fun. I'm excited to connect and chat. Thank you for having me.
It is my pleasure entirely, and I'm stoked to dive on in. And to be honest, there was a jumping off point that I wanted to dive in on, but I think I want to take a step back based on kind of how we connected prior to the call or prior to hopping on the air. And I just really want to know, like, what is forefront of the mind for you right now? What is the most pressing or pertinent thing that is coming up in your day-to-day, or the thing that you're most lit up about?
Oh my gosh. Well, we were talking a little bit about this before we jumped on. And the thing that I'm most excited about right now, and that I really have been lit up about this whole year, is my training, the Sound Healers Academy, which is just it's something that was coming through me literally for years and was born this year. We wrapped up our first class in August and the next class starting in October. It's a training that I'm hosting a couple times a year. And as you mentioned in the intro, it is a crystal alchemy sound healing training and business mentorship. So it's my heart, my soul. It's an opportunity for really people from all different walks of life to tap into the pure creative potential of sound and incorporate sound in their life, and also incorporate tools to help them live a purposeful and empowered life and build a business sharing their own unique gifts. So our next class starts in October, and it's just something I'm so excited about. It's amazing.
The fact that you combined two elements of like business and sound healing, or business and really the business of yoga, the business of meditation, the business of sound almost, that a lot of people don't necessarily know how to bridge that gap or how to create a business out of something that for most initially starts as a passion project. So, or passion project, or really a dive into their own internal and self-development. How did you bridge that gap? How did you find the way through and build a business around what lit you up inside?
Well, really through my own journey, and then people that I've met and worked with along the way. So for me, I came to sound because it transformed my life. Like when I encountered sound healing, I was in a really dark place. I was really struggling. I really wanted to heal. I was super lost. The light had literally, it was out of my eyes. You know, I was at the beginning of my journey into sobriety, and I was so anxious and just struggling, like wanted to heal, but didn't know how. And sound gave me this container and this space and this modality that reconnected me with the light and the purpose that I knew was within me, but I just didn't know how to get back there. And so it helped me so much along the way. And as I began to heal myself, I felt called to share it with other people. And I'm so grateful that one of the things that I learned as a young person and that I've been able to incorporate in my life and as my business is to always work with people who are a few steps further along on the journey than I am, you know? So I always worked with mentors, both in terms of, you know, taking teacher trainings, yoga teacher trainings, mentors in sound healing. And then I started to work with business coaches. And that was really what helped me to take this thing that had helped me so much, and turn it into something that I was able to really share effectively and make money doing. And so as I was doing that and was having amazing experiences, which I continue to do, I mean, I've had this business for 4 years and I've had the opportunity to do things that are beyond my wildest dreams, to, play with the LA Philharmonic at the Hollywood Bowl, to travel all over the world, leading retreats and trainings, working with amazing humans, celebrities, and just, I mean, not just celebrities, but amazing people, really just all walks of life. And many of the people that I've had the opportunity to work with are other healers and teachers who are on a similar path. And they've found something, whether it's sound or Reiki or yoga or acupuncture, a healing modality that has helped them so much. And they want to share that healing with others, but they don't necessarily have the business acumen or the marketing skills to put it into, a format where they can share it and dedicate their life to doing that and make money doing it. So people started coming to me asking if I would mentor them. And I was like, yes. So absolutely. So I started to do it. And more, what I noticed was, there's so many trainings out there, yoga teacher trainings, all sorts of trainings, but it's like you graduate and you have this new skill and you don't know necessarily how to build a business doing it. And a lot of teachers and healers really struggle. I've seen so many yoga teachers teaching like 40, 50 hours of classes, like crazy, literally like amounts of classes, running around all over town, burning themselves out just to make, $40 here, $100 there. And in order to really sustain the healing that you experienced that brought you to this journey, wanting to share it in the first place, there has to be a proper energy exchange. And so I'm really good at like taking a step back and looking at, sort of social constructs and building structures. And really that masculine element of business where so many teachers and healers love to be in the feminine, the energy, the radiance, the giving, the sharing, but without that masculine structure, it doesn't land. So I love supporting people in combining both and finding a healthy balance between the masculine business structure and practical tools and that magical energy that is what brought us here in the first place.
It makes me think that until you're able to fill your own cup, how can you expect to fill someone else's? Because if you're constantly, and this came up in a conversation I had with a friend who wanted to run a yoga retreat, but I was like, if you're struggling to make ends meet here, what is taking people to a faraway land going to do when you're not able to be fully present with them because of things on the back end or because of the systems that you haven't put in place yet? Business runs on systems. It's people who then operate those systems. And so many people, like you said, try and do everything themselves, the day-to-day, run all over town just to make ends meet because they're getting paid for their time rather than expanding based on the value they bring to someone, because then they can remove the time element from that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. As long as you're associating your time with money, you're always limited. You're going to be burning yourself out. But breaking out of that paradigm and shifting into, a different way of operating where you can actually scale and you can live in a way that, you work, you show up, but you also have time to rest and relax. You can afford to, invest in self-care. You can afford to invest in mentors. You can feed yourself organic, high quality food. You can afford to live in a beautiful space that's your sanctuary. Like that supports your growth for the long run.
When you went and initially tried to find your first business mentor, how did you go about that? Was this something that fell into your lap, or did you kind of go through an interview, so to speak, quite a few?
So the first business mentor that I worked with, she was more of an all-around mentor. And I met her actually in my yoga teacher training. And I didn't know that I was going to her for business. I just felt this deep heart connection with her. And every time she would come in to teach in my yoga teacher training, I would cry. It was like she just held this energy and this power that I was like, she is living, she's walking the walk. She's not just talking the talk. She's the embodiment of abundance. She's the embodiment of goddess, the embodiment of teacher. And so I worked with her for a year. And that was amazing. And then I sort of tried to figure things, and that was more, it wasn't as much of a practical business mentorship. It was more like, the energy and developing my authentic presence and really doing a lot of deep inner healing. The next business mentor that I worked with, which was so scary, it was like shifting, because that first mentor that I worked with, that teacher, it wasn't a big investment at all. Like, it was totally reasonably priced. It was a couple $100s a month. It felt like a very safe, big investment for me at the time, but not like crazy. The next one that I worked with did fall into my lap. Somebody that I knew said, you need to work with this girl. You need to really focus on this part of like the structure, all of, the sales element of things that I was terrified to learn. And it was a huge investment. It was $20,000. And I was like, what? And I was like, oh my gosh. But again, I had a conversation with her. I felt that soul connection. My fiance was like, what are you doing? He was like, Susy, you need to interview multiple people. And I was like, no, I know that I need to work with her. And I did it, and it was amazing. And then the next mentor that I worked with, I did interview a few people, because after working with that second mentor, I got a lot of clarity. There were things that I loved. There were things that I would have done differently. And I identified by the end of that new goals, very specific things that I wanted to be able to achieve. And having worked with someone who helped me to get clarity around the next steps of scaling my business, I was clear on what that looked like. So I felt a soul connection with someone, but I took my fiance's advice and I interviewed 3 different mentors and ultimately went with the one that I had felt initially. It was an even bigger investment, and the return was beyond what I could have imagined. Like, truly, 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 I know that investing in yourself, especially when you're like, what the heck, this feels so scary and such a stretch outside my comfort zone, it comes back 100-fold, because making that investment kind of put a fire under my ass. Like, not to curse, I don't usually curse, but like, it put this fire under my ass that was like, Susy, those things that in your soul you need to do, but you've been too scared to do, like, now's the time. And you spent all this money, you gotta live up to that. And I was held in this really, really high level energetic container that literally blasted me into another paradigm. And that was when I founded the Sound Healers Academy. So
it's interesting how we hold our perception or perceived value of things to such a high standard when we put a monetary number on it. When technically money doesn't necessarily exist, it's just something that we all believe to be the same price or to be the same value. So then by putting an artificial number on something, it then lights a fire under you because of how you perceive that thing that you're technically losing, but it's not really yours to begin with. And then that makes you work towards something. Imagine if we were able to do that without having to, you were able to exchange that amount of energy with someone or something without having to put this like scarcity-based mindset around finances behind it.
It's so true. And I love how you said it's an exchange, and it really is. It's a flow. And I think of money now as currency. Like, currency has to flow. Like, it's this current. And the more that we're tapped into that flow and this fact that it's a construct, it doesn't actually exist. It's just a way of, quantifying something that is actually infinite energy. It cannot be created or destroyed. It's just a matter of tapping into it. And the more that we can recognize that energy is always available for us to tap into and harness, the more empowered we are, but sometimes it does take those steps along the way of like, oh my gosh, a big number, in order to realize that it's all an illusion anyway.
Well, you often need that punch, like the punch to the gut saying like, oh, I'm going to lose this, or that fear of losing something, because that then brings you out of comfort into uncertainty, and growth then comes through discomfort. But if you're always in a place or only spending money based on where you're presently at or your present means, you're never going to be able to break through that. I read, I want to say it was Chip Wilson's book, the founder of Lululemon. And he was talking about how if you always set goals based on past experiences, you will only ever have what you've had up to this point in your life. But if you set your goals based on future expectations, now you're able to break through all these limiting beliefs that we create and surround ourselves with.
So true. It's so true. I love the story of Jim Carrey, how he wrote himself that,
The
this one
check.
where he
Yeah,
wrote,
yeah, yeah.
the check for $10 million when he was like broke and struggling, and he dated it and he put it in his wallet. And literally like the day that he had dated it for, I think that was what movie was it? It was like Ace Ventura.
It's either Ace Ventura or Dumb and Dumber. One of
It was
the.
dumb. It was Dumb and Dumber, and like he actually made that on the date. But he, in that moment when he wrote it, like it felt absolutely impossible. It felt like how could he ever, how would he get to that? But it was there. It's always there.
Something that I've worked with clients on before, and that has helped myself as well as a lot of people, is that you take that end goal and then you deconstruct it. So you go from where you're at and then you deconstruct back to what you need to be doing every single day in order to get there. So if you need to make, if the goal's whatever, $1 million a year, then you're going to figure out what that is per 12 months, per month, per day, per hour, and then put in the pieces so that you're focusing on, going on another book here, Atomic Habits, James Clear. Focus on the inputs of what you actually have control over, not the outputs, which are the goal. Because if you focus on the inputs, then the goal will automatically accomplish itself if you're doing the thing every single day that's moving you one step closer to that goal. You don't need to necessarily think of the goal itself.
It's so true. And it makes it feel more realistic. Like that's something that in my 6-month mentorship, we talk a lot about, because that mentorship is based on breaking into the paradigm of having a 6-figure business, which if you're earning, $30,000 a year, earning $100,000 feels like a major stretch. How do you get there? But if you break it down and you say, oh, that's $8,888 a month, still feels like a lot. Oh, $2,220 a week. Oh, okay, that feels more realistic, and you can build your offerings in a way where you're like, boom, and you take steps, like you said, every day that are working towards that, rather than like, how do I work towards this impossible goal that feels so big I can't even touch it?
Yeah. It was like, I read that book a while ago, but the aha for me was that winners or losers, successful or unsuccessful people, they have the same goals. So what's the difference? What's the difference between someone who accomplished it and someone who doesn't? And it would be the inputs, which really then comes down to the action that you're willing to take. Like, are you actually willing to show up, not just for others, but for yourself every single day, get uncomfortable doing things that honestly suck? Like, it's gonna suck, but you have to be willing to put in the work, because that's what's gonna get you there. And if you don't quit, you will always get there. You just, there's all of the barriers put in front of you that are trying to get you to expand and grow. And you have to then circumvent or navigate through them, or recognize there's a door one step to your right and just take the easy route to get through it.
It's so true. It really is. It's that like consistency, that accountability, and recognizing that like as the obstacles come up, oftentimes it's an opportunity for growth, but there's a door to the right of it, and you show up no matter what, and that's what makes all the difference. I think also about Jerry Seinfeld, when he was first starting to write, and what did he call it? It was like the red X, the chain, breaking the chain. Where every day he wrote, he would put a red X on his calendar. And by continuously doing that, he created so much material. It led to his inevitable, incredible success. But, oftentimes I think what happens is, we're tired, or we're overwhelmed, or we're busy, or we don't feel like it, so we don't do the thing. But in fact, if you just do it, it will ultimately get you to your goal. Just do it. Show up, do that thing you need to do. What you're here for. And those little actions day by day, even if you're writing for 5 minutes, will account to getting you where you dream of going.
The Jerry Seinfeld example is a perfect example of fixing the input so that the outputs fix themselves. It wasn't that he needed to write 10,000 jokes in a year. It's that he needed to just write a joke every single day, and he would mark it off on his calendar. And then when you reflect back, you look at everything that you accomplished, because it was one little tiny step every single day that ultimately led you to where you are today, which is, it's whatever you want to do. Like, if you want to be a runner, the goal isn't to go run a marathon. The goal is just to put your shoes on in the morning. You put your shoes on, you're going to start the chain of events to get you out the door. If your goal is to write jokes, sit down at your chair and just set a timer for 5 minutes and write a single joke. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. It's the fact that you did it. There's the, and then I got one more thing on this, and then we can kind of shift to the next, because I have a follow-up that I want to ask you on in terms of the mentorship. But the interesting thing was they took 2 groups of students at a college. I think it was a photography class. And they told group A that you needed to take a photo every single day and just submit your best photo at the end of the semester. You only need to submit 1 photo. They told group B, all you need to do is submit 1 photo. Guess which group had the best photo? The one who practiced every single day, regardless of it, that they said they needed to, or they needed to submit a photo every single day, but they got to pick which one they thought was their best. And then the other group said that do whatever you want for the semester, you just got to submit 1 photo. And because of the repetition, they actually got much, much better than the group who just waited to the last day to go take a photo.
Wow. Wow. So cool. Is there anything, what's your thing? Like, what do you do every day? Or like, what's your thing that moves you towards your biggest goal?
The thing that moves me towards my biggest goal is there's 2. One is I have to be the first person up wherever I am at. And it's hugely like mental. it's hugely mental. It's this thought of like, if I'm up before everyone, I'm accomplishing something other people aren't. And it's that like up before the sun, I'm sitting down and I'm working. I'm in the process of writing out a new course, a new online course right now. And because of my days are so packed, I wake up at 4 and I write until 6:30 before I go to the gym. So I can get 2.5 hours of dedicated time without interruptions, without notifications, like deep work of what it is that I'm doing. That's number 1. And because it's like, I love the people who are like, I don't have the time to do it. You make time if you have the priority. It's a priority, not a time constraint.
Yeah.
The second thing is that I need to stop and watch the sunset every day. And there's 2 reasons to that. One, it's because if I'm not enjoying the process of working this hard, what's the point? And 2 is if I'm working this hard, but I can't take a second to be grateful for what I have, I'm going to burn myself out. And again, what's the point?
Love that. I love that so much. Oh my gosh.
So that was because I've been on both sides of the coin. I've seen, and I'm the kind of person that's like, okay, you're going to challenge me to this? Like, fuck it. Here we go. I'm going to fall off the treadmill and die before I submit or quit or whatever it ends up being. And because I've been on both sides, I realized like in order to sustain that level of peak performance, you can't live in that place. You can have elements of peak performance in every single day as you should, but to try and maintain that and live in that place is not humanly possible. So it's these little things that like, okay. And the reason, and this is almost like a very recent revelation for me. I've been doing the 2 things for a while, but it was very apparent to me just a couple weeks ago where I had literally back-to-back calls. I think I had over 11 hours of calls back to back to back to back to back to back to back because I was covering for someone and then taking all of our sales calls for our consulting team as well on a Friday. And it destroyed me. Absolutely destroyed me. I had no energy Saturday because I was so mentally drained by being present with people on, even though it's over Zoom, you're present with people and you're building relationship and connection, helping them solve problems. And I was like, never again will I trade one day of just absolute balls to the wall, like work, because then you don't have these other little days. Like the one thing that you do every single day that drives you towards your goal is far more important than one day that screws you up for the next 3 to 5.
It's so true. It's so true. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
I see it a lot too I used to party a lot, but I see it a lot too in people who still drink and drink significantly and heavily. It's like, okay, great. You are going out Friday, but then your Saturday, Sunday, Monday, you're at this like lowered emotional state. So and then you're starting Tuesday at this place where you're having to rebuild yourself back up only to pull yourself back down on Friday. And then you say you don't have time to do all these additional things that you want to do. Fix the inputs. Look what you're putting into your body every single day in copious amounts that's preventing you from actually being able to express and live to the fullest potential possible.
It's so true. And I used to be the exact same way. And I mean, I'm in recovery now, but I always think to myself, like, even if I could be magically like drink alcohol and not overdo it, I wouldn't. I honestly would choose not to drink, because every single thing I put into my body today, whether it's food, whether it's what I drink, like I'm thinking, how is this going to either support me in feeling vibrant and vital and operating at peak performance, or is it going to bring me down? And, sometimes it is worth it, to have a little treat, a little cookie or whatever, not living as some kind of saint, but at the same time, like really thinking about like, what am I trading off? Like, is this going to lower my vibration? Is this going to bring me down so that I have to like take a day to reset, or 2 days or 3 days? Or am I going to choose to like drink the green juice, not drink the alcohol, go to bed early, wake up, thrive, and serve this world to the best of my ability? Because I know that's what I'm here for. Not willing to compromise anymore.
Yeah. And it's once you've felt that new state or that new place and you've experienced it, then you're like, how did I spend so much time in this place? Because that lowered state became your new norm. And then that new norm is this place where you're like, well, wait a second, this is how I was living for so long. What if I had overcome this before and now I'm in? But you got to have kind of the contrasting. You got to have the dark and the light to see the different shades of color, so to speak.
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, I think back to like when I was really in my darkest times and I wasn't taking care of my body, I would like have full blown bronchitis and not even realize it. I'd be like, I'm coughing. I should probably go to the doctor. And now at this point, like the way that I take care of my body and really love myself and fuel myself, like if I start to feel like a slight tickle or anything, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm able to, shift and do what I need to do and not have to go down that path of like being taken out or needing to take antibiotics or whatever it may be. It's amazing to be in that place where you can be so in tune and so clear.
It's also almost a fear-based response a lot of times to put people for people to put themselves back in these states, because it's comfortable, it's what they know. And this whole like living above, living abundantly, thinking abundantly, expressing emotionally is a scary place because it's uncertain. It's not what you've been, quote, conditioned to know. And like I was having a conversation the other day where it's like, what do we say the vast majority of the day? Someone says, how are you? I'm good. What is good? Like, good. You want to have just a mediocre life. You want to live a mediocre life. Like everything that you do. Oh, how is your food? Oh, it's just good.
And no, I want to be amazing. And it's true. That's how I'm like, I'm amazing. That's how I want to be. You speak it into action. And it is the truth, Yeah. When you ask someone how they say, I'm okay. I'm like, just okay. Come on, we need to talk.
Well, it's like you don't want to be at the top of like be 1 or a 10. Don't be the lukewarm 5, because if you're at a 1 and you're having a shit day, have a shit day. It's okay to be, it's okay to not be okay. It's fine. But also at a 10, like if you are feeling good, don't diminish yourself to bring yourself down to someone else because I'm having a fucking amazing day. And then they're like, oh, well, I'm just having a good day. And then now you feel bad and they're trying to pull you down to themselves. But that's where you need to level up and step above it, because now you'll raise people up rather than let them pull you down to your level or their level.
It's so true. It's like the quote from Marianne Williamson, which is, it's like our greatest fear is not that we're not good enough. Our greatest fear is that we are this incredible bright light of love. I mean, I'm totally misquoting her, but but essentially it's that. It's like, who am I to shine? Who am I to be bright? Who am I to be this powerful? And it's like, who are you not to be? For some reason, the culture we live in, it really does. It's the norm to say like, I'm good, I'm okay, but why don't we let ourselves thrive and shine? Like we get to do that. Who are we not to, And when we do that, when I hop on here and you are shining and radiant and like, hi, Susie, welcome. It lifts me up. And when I do the same, it does it for you. And for the people watching this, like if they're to come on and listen to this podcast, like, How are you? Pretty good. Pretty good. Okay. Like, what kind of impact is that going to make? Why are you listening to this? But if you hop on here and you're feeling us at our, shiniest, brightest light, like it's going to inspire you hopefully to do the same. And I love that about sound healing. Everything is frequency. Everything is frequency. And we're always in training with our environment. And so when you're surrounding yourself with people who are not on a high vibration, it's gonna bring you down, but when you choose to surround yourself with people and places and things and feed yourself foods that are operating at that high frequency, it's gonna lift you up to that. And that's what we get to do. I think it's this beautiful opportunity that we all have. And it's safe to do that. It is, but it can be a process of learning that, because for a lot of us, as kids, when you're doing great, you get picked on, or smarty, nerd, whatever it may be. But as adults and as conscious humans, I think we really do get to choose and to recognize that it is our birthright. It's our birthright to be empowered and to shine and to feel amazing and to live these beautiful lives.
Mm-hmm. I could not agree more. And I want to circle back because we've kind of continued down this fantastic tangent, but I had a follow-up question, and that was, having worked with coaches and both business and spiritual and sound healing and all across the board mentorship, what is something looking back that you wish you would have asked when you were looking to find your first coach or looking to find one of your first coaches?
Such a good question. It's going to take me a second. Something that I wish I would have asked when I was looking to find one of my first coaches. I think asking them, just, and I didn't ask this because I just trusted and I surrendered to the right person being there. But I would say, like, what would you have done differently when you were at the start of your journey? And ask them, like, right off the bat, like, what are the biggest things you learned? Because I think when you're on a path of being a healer or building a business, stepping onto this path, like, a lot of times we learn things the hard way. And yes, there's value in that, but also when you work with a coach or a mentor, learning from their experience is so powerful. And so right off the bat, asking them, like, what would you have done differently? You can, rule out some of the things that maybe you don't need to learn the hard way. You can learn from their wisdom instead. You're
essentially able to take their troubled times or their hard lessons and jump over the hurdle real quick, because that's one of the benefits of working with a coach and having a mentor is they're saving you the time to learn things quicker. But then, the caveat to that would be, you won't fully comprehend anything until it's necessarily your right time to know it as well. It's like, I could tell you this every single day, but if it doesn't click for you, it doesn't click for you. So, have you experienced that where a mentor or a coach has been telling you one thing, but it has taken some time for it to actually seep in and sink in, and then you like, oh, that's what you meant the whole time?
Totally. Well, oh my gosh. So when I was first launching my business, I hired a lawyer, and I literally didn't realize that this lawyer was also a business coach. Like, I didn't even know what a business coach was. And so I hired this lawyer, and I was like, I would love for you to help me form my LLC and write a liability waiver and da da da. And she was like, great. But as a part of the package, I also write service agreements for your group offerings. And I was like, okay, cool. But I don't have group offerings. I just want something for my one-on-ones. And she kept pushing me and saying, like, there's going to be a lot more value in having a long-term program. There's going to be a lot more value in having a group offering. And if you're charging $100 or $50 for a one-on-one session, it's going to be really challenging for you to sell a program that's $3,000 or something like that. And I was like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. I was like, no, I want to have these a la carte sessions. I want to do one-on-one healings with people for $100 or whatever it was at the time. And I wasn't ready. I, at that point, it was like my first year of even doing sessions. So I needed to have that experience, and I couldn't comprehend creating a program, creating a package, selling it, any of that. So I mean, what we were talking about associating time with money, it was like, I can make $100 in an hour. Yes. Like that was me shifting into a big new paradigm. And I remember when I was even learning sound healing and I was studying with a mentor and he would pay me to come play the gong in his events. He'd give me $100. I was like, mind blown. I can make $100 on a Sunday night playing the gong. And so this business coach lawyer was really pushing me to expand into a deeper offering, but I literally couldn't understand what she was telling me to do. And years later, I was like, oh, she was a business coach. Like, oh, that's what she was trying to get me to do. And actually another person that I worked with, when I was filming my first YouTube videos, he was also a coach. I didn't realize it. I thought he was like a videographer. He was a friend, and he kept pushing me to launch a course. He kept saying like, Susie, at that point I had created a 6-figure business. He was like, people need what you have to give. You need to create a course. You need to create a course for healers on how to have a 6-figure business. And I was like, yeah. And he was telling me you need to build it on Kajabi. And I was like, what is this Kajabi program? I don't know what that is. I was like, I have Squarespace. It's great. I can't figure out a group program. Like I couldn't wrap my head around it. And now I literally have that program. And it's been such a life changer, not just for me, but for the women that I get to work with. I mean, my 6-month mentorship it's one of my favorite things that I've ever created. It's such a beautiful, in-depth, intimate program where it's 15 women a year and we just go so deep and I support them and, building their businesses. And sometimes it does take 6 months to break through those paradigms and to have that daily accountability to do the things like we were talking about, whether it's building your audience, your engaged audience by consistently posting on social media, whether it's doing those tiny daily action steps that get you towards building your own program. That program is so special. And I was literally told to create it probably 2 years before I did.
So, okay, let me ask you the question then. Reflecting back on your course creation journey, what would your advice to someone just starting a course be, or how would you have shifted it and done it differently if you could have?
First of all, don't try to launch more than one thing at once. Like the first group program that I launched, I tried to launch 2 things at once and it put me into like a whole state of frenzy, which I ended up pausing one and, doing them one at a time. But my tendency in terms of like the self-sabotage that I create is I make myself very busy and I give myself, I bite off more than I can chew so that I can justify like if it doesn't work out. That's the subconscious thing. So I would say, take it easy, trust that it's happening. If you feel something coming through you, if you feel inspired by something, if something has helped you and you are wanting to create a course around it, it's going to happen. But just clear your plate, make sure that you can really focus on that one thing and take it one step at a time. And that's another thing. And that's actually advice that I got from one of my most incredible coaches is to focus on one thing. And there's a book called The One Thing. But it's all about identifying like, what is that one thing that's going to drive you towards your dream, towards your goal, make the biggest impact. And so whether it's that one thing in your business being the course that you're creating and focusing on that, or whether it's waking up in the morning and saying like, what is the one thing that I can do today that's going to drive my business the furthest? Focus on that and don't get overwhelmed by crazy to-do lists or biting off more than you can chew. Just take it one step at a time. That's the biggest thing that I would say. It's
basically the 80-20 rule in all forms and fashions of everything that we do. And for anyone not familiar with 80-20 rule, I can't speak now, geez. The 80-20 rule, it's the 20% of your inputs essentially produce 80% of the output. So 20% of the work you do produces 80% of the revenue or the profits. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is the 80-20 rule also applies to the 80-20 rule itself. Therefore, 4% of your inputs produce 64% of your outputs. Imagine if you just focused on the 4% and you threw everything else out, you would still progress dramatically farther than if you tried to do 20, 30, 40, 100%. Because because then you're going to burn yourself out. And then at that point, if you can do the 4% every single day, one after another, imagine where you're going to be in a year, 3 years, 5 years. It's exponential.
It's so true. Well, and perfect example is you with the course you're creating right now. If you were to wake up every day and say, I'm so obsessed with creating this course, I'm going to make it all happen today, and I'm going to spend 8 hours a day creating it, you're going to get burnt out really quickly. But you wake up, you spend 2 hours working on it, which feels like a good, it's a good amount, but it's like you're biting off what you can actually chew and swallow. And you do that every day, bit by bit, and it gets you there. And before you even gone to the gym in the morning, you've already made progress. You've already accomplished that thing that's pushing you towards your biggest goal in this moment.
Yeah, 100%. That'd be my personal advice to anyone as well. It's like, just do a little bit each and every day to get you closer and closer to your goal. Because when you look at the mountain from day one, you're like, wow, that peak's really far away. But if you actually look down at the ground and you say, oh, there's one step, the beginning is often the most fun part, because you're starting out and you're getting into this creative flow. And then you get into the flow state every single day where you're able to work a little bit. And that's, without that, without that kind of structure, and this is something for course creators, authors, online coaches, the things that I see the most is that there's no framework in terms of what they're trying to do. There's no like outline of the course they want to create. They're like, all right, this is the whole thing. Like, whoa, what do I do? Like, that's massive, this massive mountain you're trying to climb. But then if you break it down, like chapter by chapter, module by module, sub-module by sub-module, now you have a little thing to focus on each day, and you can actually hone in and focus on that one thing you need to do to get to your goal. Then all those come together and accumulate. Now you've got a full course. The interesting thing, I kind of forget where I was going with this right there, but the interesting thing with that as well is when you're able to break it down, that's actually then how you get into flow state, because flow state is that kind of happy medium area between anxiety and boredom. If it's so much work, this huge mountain that you got to climb, you're like anxious because I don't know how I'm going to do this. It's so much work. It's going to take me years. And then if it's too easy and you blow through it real quick, then you're just bored and then you don't even get into it. So it's finding that place. And for myself personally, I found that that's if I get a clear outline and I sit down and I'm like, let's set a couple hours, let's break down what each piece is going to be. How am I going to tackle each piece? And then I just put that into a project management software. Then I can go and I'm saying like, okay, I'm going to do this one piece today. I'm going to do this one piece, check it off. And then it slowly progresses into this ultimate, like massive project.
It's so true. And that is something you made just a little mention, but project management software, that was another game changer for me that I did not even think about until working with one of my coaches. I work with Asana. I don't know what you work with.
Same.
I mean, life-changing, because for me, what I used to do is have so many to-do lists on lists. And it would be this way of, again, creating that sense of overwhelm, but also feeling like little wins by crossing things off. But I wasn't able to properly organize and designate like this needs to happen when, or that needs to happen next week, or that doesn't even need to happen until next year. It would just look at it and feel paralyzed by these lists. And so to have everything clearly broken down in an app or project management software like Asana, there's a few out there. I can say, okay, this is the one thing I need to do. These are the 3 things, and this is the highest priority. And once I do that, then I can move on to the other things and know that other thing that may have otherwise been stressing me out, that doesn't need to get done until next week or next month. And I trust that it will be there when I get to that date. It's all laid out. Makes such a big difference.
If you want to put Asana on steroids too, you can connect it with an integration platform like Zapier or Integromat. And that's something that I do for almost everything, where even booking the podcast and coming on the podcast, there is probably like a 15-step automation that happens when you were to book to come on the show. So you book to come on the show, and these are all things that I would do manually before. So just from one booking, Now I'm removing 2 hours of admin work from that day. Now, if I compound that over 2 episodes per week, that's 4 hours a week, 8 per month. Now, then it grows per month, per year. And then you're realizing that you've spent 4 weeks of admin work just booking people for a podcast of something that you wanted to be a fun thing. So now the way that it's structured is someone books the podcast. It automatically adds them and all of their information into Asana. It sends the guest an email with what I need prior to the recording of the episode. It sends an email to our podcast manager to say that there's a new guest who's been booked. It tags them in the Asana platform. It lets the video editor know when we're going to record this episode, so that the minute this is then recorded, it adds a tag into Asana that says recording is over. Go into the file, you can pull it, and now everything's ready for you. Then they drag it, and when they move it into post-production, then another automation takes place, everything into Slack. Once they hit complete, it sends me a message that says, Kevin, give us approval to post.
What? That is next level. Wait, so you're using Zapier, and what's the other one?
So there's 2, Zapier and Integromat. They're the exact same thing. They're just competitors. It's basically an integrations automation API, essentially. So you can take any application and tie it and connect it to another application, but you can add things in between too. So you would have, we use Calendly for our booking. So you would use Calendly, which would then connect to Asana, which would then connect to Gmail, which would then connect to Google Sheets, which would then connect to Airtable, which would then connect to, and you can, it's infinite. You can build as big of an automation as you want. There's some in there that are over 100 things long, and it will store this is my bread and butter right here, is like,
oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Systemization and automation, because when I first built my business, or at least when I first built the retreat side of the business, there was a lot that I tried to do myself, and then I didn't. So then I outsourced, but then I went a VA route, and then the VA didn't have the same quality control standards, and I'm a little OCD, and a little. And I wanted the same quality that I'm, if you're coming under the Synchronicity brand for anything, there's a quality that I'm going to demand. That's it. And because I couldn't get that from someone at the time, I was like, well, what can I do to leverage the power of technology to get it where I can create it once, AKA a course, but then automate the entire process. So that's what I did with everything. So then what I do now is I go through, I used to do it once a week. Now I do it about once a month. And I'll keep track of everything that I do in a week. So I'll just create a little spreadsheet and I'll take a tally. If I do it more than 3 times in a week and I don't enjoy it or find it fulfilling, I either need to delete it, systemize, or delegate. So I either need to delete it from my day entirely, and that's most of the time what happens, because we pick up all these little things that we don't necessarily need. You're just like, oh, that's cool. Either that, systemize it. So how can I leverage technology to do this for me and give me the exact same task every single time to perfection? Or how can I delegate it? And as you begin to grow the business, you'll realize that your quote hourly rate begins to rise as well. So everything under that needs to be systemized, deleted, or delegated. That's changed everything for me. Just that mindset of how to approach systems like that.
So good. So good. This is incredible. And it literally makes all the difference, because at your level, you shouldn't be doing the tasks that are like $5, $10, $100 tasks. You should be focusing on the $10,000, $30,000, $100,000 things that are really moving you towards it.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
And
Wow.
you have all of these tools, like everyone has these tools at their disposal, and it's not even that scary. Like, if you don't know how to use it, there's a Facebook community that you go ask a question and set it up. You can use it for like $10 a month, I think it is, and it grows as with how many tasks or how many things that you're doing on a monthly basis. But for the vast majority of people, you're not doing over 10,000 tasks a month. So that is stuff that you would just be able to completely remove. So now, rather than doing all of these things, all you do is you pull up Asana and you're like, all right, cool. Here's who I have on the podcast today. All right, cool. Let's go do an hour of research. Let's find all of these questions that I want to ask or dive into. And then now the 1 hour that I'm spending on it is focused work on something that's going to produce a result rather than something that's just a data entry task or a busy work, essentially. You're focusing on the 4%, not the rest of it. That's how you can fit so much. Like anyone who looked like my calendar, if you look at it, you're like, you're too busy. Like that's not healthy. That's not good. But the way that it's like compartmentalized and automated, it's effortless in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way, but it's been such a journey to get there, right? And it requires letting go, 100%. Right? Like in putting those systems into place, trusting that they'll operate, and designating time to do audits and make sure that things are still the way you want them to be if you want to update the copy or whatever. But I think for me, letting go of those things that like made me feel good, having a little meaningless check off the to-do list, like that's not where I need to be putting my energy. That's not where you need to be putting your energy. And it's when you can actually make that shift and focus on, the one thing, that 4%, like everything begins to change and your day feels so good to move through because it's not like depleting you with these little admin tasks that I think when you're starting a business, it's like, what can I do? What can I do? Okay, I can do this, but no, you can do so much more and feel really good doing it because you get to be in your purpose, be in your zone of genius.
Yeah. It's that dopamine hit of checking it off that we're chasing, but how you can keep that, but how great would it feel to set one goal for each day? And then when you check that off at the end of the day, now you know that you did everything you needed to move you one step closer to your goal.
So true. So good.
Susy, this conversation has been absolutely amazing and super eye-opening. So I thank you for your time today. I want to wrap up with a couple rapid fire questions, if that is okay with you.
It just froze for a second. I couldn't hear what you said.
We are all good. I want to wrap up with a couple rapid fire questions, if that is okay with you.
Absolutely.
All right. The first one being, if you could attribute your success to one thing specifically, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. Surrender. I would say surrender.
If you could spend 1 hour with anyone, past, present, or future, who would it be and why?
My fiance. Because he's the best. He's amazing. And he's taught me, he holds me in such a way that I become a better person, more aligned with my purpose, more clear on who I am, allows my feminine to relax into that masculine structure that he holds me in. And he's just the best.
What is the biggest mistake you've ever made and what did you learn from it?
Entering into a business partnership without clearly outlining the specifics of what the partnership entailed. And what I learned is just the importance of clear, honest communication up front, that it's a lot easier to have those conversations before you officially enter into something, especially when there's love and light and magic and friendship involved. It's all love and light until it's not, unfortunately. And so, yeah, I've really learned to have contracts, have clarity, have those conversations up front, and really just lay that foundation before you dive into something big, especially when it comes to business.
So important. And last but not least, in your opinion, what is the single most important thing someone can do to live a happy, healthy, and fulfilling life?
Start your day every day with a moment of peace, with meditation. If you take time every morning to meditate and connect with gratitude and connect with your heart, your whole life will change.
I love it. Almost you brought the whole conversation full circle today too. Yeah. Susy, I want to open the floor. Is there anything else you'd like to say or add, or where's the best place for people to get in contact with you before we wrap up today?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. This has been such an incredible conversation. I I feel so inspired and uplifted. I've learned a lot. It's been so much fun. For those of you listening, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Thank you for being here and being a part of this community. I would love to connect with you. I would love to support you on your journey if it feels aligned. My website is thecoppervessel.com and my Instagram is thecoppervessel. If you're in a place in your journey where you're trying to get into meditation, trying to heal, please join me for a sound bath. I have a monthly sound healing membership, which gives you access to on-demand sound baths. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to deepen into your spiritually aligned business, you want to bring sound into that, definitely check out the Sound Healers Academy. It's an incredible 3-month sound healing training and business mentorship. And if you really want to go deep and you are a feminine force, check out Divinely Guided, which is my 6-month mentorship mastermind, which I hold once a year. Send me an email, send me a DM. I'd love to hear from you, connect with you, and support you in stepping into your highest path and purpose and shining your brightest light.
Beautiful. I will also link to all of the above and all the things from the episode at kevinwathey.com/podcast. But Susy, thank you again so much for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, Kevin. Have the best day. I'm sending you so much love.
Hey, it's Kevin here. And before I let you go, I wanted to let you know that the complete show notes for this episode, as well as any other, can be found at kevinwathey.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a short review on Apple Podcasts. I love reading the reviews, and they're often the tipping point in helping us book some very hard to reach guests. Now, if you want to or would like to receive a weekly email from me called the Weekly Mindful Memo, head over to kevinwathey.com/VIP to subscribe. By signing up, you'll receive exclusive behind-the-scenes access and be the first to know about upcoming episodes, retreats, and more direct to your inbox. Again, you can sign up to receive the Weekly Mindful Memo by going to kevinwathey.com/VIP. Thank you for listening. Much love, and have a wonderful rest of your day.